Not surprising, but I guess stunning just to see it all out in the open, plain English, put it up there on the screen. Jeffrey Epstein appeared to threaten Bill Gates over Microsoft co-founder's affair with a Russian bridge player. So a lot of interesting characters at the center of this story. Basically, this goes back to 2013, where Bill Gates 2010. Bill Gates apparently is obsessed with the game Bridge, like the card game. He met a Russian girl who was in her 20s, who was apparently very good at bridge. They ended up having an affair. She founded an organization where she wanted to like teach other people how to play bridge and spread the game of bridge. She asked Bill Gates for money. Gates apparently turned her down. Then Epstein somehow inserted himself into the mix. He ended up meeting this girl. This is all post-sex conviction, by the way, by Epstein, an eventual release. So he's a registered sex offender at this time. What he does is he apparently backs some of her charity. And then she says, I want to go to coding school. And Epstein, she lets us drop in a meeting with Epstein. Epstein says, okay, I'll foot the bill for it. So this all appears to be, this is the state of affairs. Well, then Epstein wants to start some sort of multi-billion-dollar charity fund with JP Morgan and Chase. It would be like some grand big fund with multiple billionaires would donate to, and he would be the kind of executive director of. By the way, by doing so, he would have earned millions of dollars a year in fees for serving as the, executive director of said fund. Gates and people around Gates turn him down. They say, no, we're not interested. Well, this apparently pissed off Epstein. So Epstein then sent an email to Bill Gates where he tried to get Gates to reimburse him for the cost of sending this Russian bridge player to the coding school. Basically a subtle hint of, hey man, if you don't donate to my fund, I will expose that you had this previous affair. Now combine this, Krystal, with past reporting and allegations by Gates's ex-wife that he would often complain about his marriage and would even go to him for advice to Epstein. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that, that Epstein not only knew about this because Gates had mentioned it, but he was aware of multiple other affairs that Bill Gates had conducted while he was married previously to his ex-wife. And then finally, probably the most insane part of all of this is that days before Epstein died, again, days before he died in 2019, he changed his will and actually named Bill Gates's right-hand man as the backup executor without ever talking to him. That backup right-hand man says Epstein did not discuss that idea with him beforehand and that he declined to serve. Quote, he says, he couldn't have listed Bill because that would have been too obvious, so he chose me. I have come to believe it was a retaliatory move against Bill Gates, as in it was like a shot across the bow about how close their relationship was.
To tie him into everything.
To tie him into everything. So I think that
It's wild.
In terms of how deep the rabbit hole goes, this is just the surface.
Yes.
And it is confirmation of what all of us suspected, that he would get, elites into compromised positions by inviting them to his island, flying them on the plane, and making them feel like everything was cool, and then using that information to blackmail them in business transactions. This is it. It's clear as day. He used information that he gleaned from his personal relationships and extramarital affairs that would have been publicly embarrassing and used it directly in terms of a business relationship.
Yeah,
This is clear cut.
Yeah, and then the only question is whether there were also governments like our own and or Israel's
exactly.
that also would have found that sort of compromising information on the wealthiest and most powerful people on the planet useful to their ends as well, which is the other part of this that, I think we've all long suspected. But yeah, this was what he did. He would make you feel like, he would do everything to make you feel like he was your best friend. Even we got the details from the Wall Street Journal. They've been on it in terms of this recent reporting that he would make people feel like they were, his number one friend. He'd figure out what type of sushi they wanted, what were their little needs that they had that they needed met. Noam Chomsky and whatever this account transfer was, like whatever problem you had.
Crazy.
Jeffrey Epstein was going to be there for you to try to make it go away, and he was going to invite you to all these, glamorous gatherings, et cetera, and everybody was in the club. job. So what's the problem here? If he's being accepted by Bill Gates and all these other billionaires, then surely it's fine for you to associate with him as well. And then whatever compromising information he could get on you, you know, from being at his parties, being on his jet, being on his island, from knowing about your affairs, or whatever it is, then he would weaponize to try to get from you whatever it was that he wanted. So you can see the game here. I mean, you see this Les Wexner, who was his primary benefactor, obviously, and probably the primary source likely of Epstein's wealth and his ability to live like a billionaire himself, even though there isn't a lot of record of him having a lot of like big clients that would really justify this type of lifestyle. Very similar dynamic there as well. And then it is quite a tantalizing and bizarre detail that it was literally days before he died, however you want to make of that, that he changes the executor, the backup executor on his will. That is a pretty extraordinary detail there.
What is clear to me is that, what is very clear and obvious to me about what's happening is that somebody who has access to a whole lot of Epstein information leaked it all to the Wall Street Journal. And they have been doing drib reporting about the Noam Chomsky meeting. They did the Larry Summers story originally. And I don't think it takes much of a genius to figure this out. I think it was the U.S. Virgin Islands, because the U.S. Virgin Islands has an ongoing suit with Epstein against Epstein's estate, not only for the victims, but to expose some of his dealing. Clearly, they have access to his calendars and to his emails and to some other things and other information that's not come out publicly. That now is being deployed in the press, most likely as an effort to try and get the Epstein estate to settle, or at the very least pay them, you know, whatever they want in terms of that suit. Now, I actually am against that. I just want this information published. And this is my message to the U.S. Virgin Islands and others. Get your bag, but also publish everything you got. Because this is such a matter of public interest now. You know, because this is only scratching the surface in terms of the wealthiest, most powerful men. We need to know more about the governments, like Ehud Barak, the Israeli prime minister who slept over at his house constantly, or Bill Clinton and the number of times that he, you know, flew on the jet. I mean, that's the other thing that it becomes so crazy, like when you're reading this, is the amount of times that they were just flying casually on each other's private jets from different destinations, and the idea that they didn't know each other obviously deeply and intimately, whenever the calendar shows that they met dozens of times. I mean, you know, we even showed that former Obama lawyer who had met many times with Epstein, who then went to go work as a top lawyer, I think, for Goldman Sachs. I mean, there were several other meetings and things that have taken place, which it's very difficult to explain. And this lawsuit, I think, has the keys to a lot more info about him.
Yeah. Well, they just started looking to subpoena Elon Musk as well.
Right.
So, I mean, it really is crazy the number of people that he, in the highest echelons of society, was able to associate and ingratiate himself with.
Yeah.
It really is astonishing. I mean, you just look at these reports and you're like, was there any elite in the world that didn't end up having some sort of Jeffrey Epstein connection? So
apparently the answer is no.
Yes. So anyway, we'll see what the Wall Street Journal drops next. But this Bill Gates piece is pretty extraordinary. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.